Hey everyone, welcome back to the Truck Focus podcast. Josh Hannaberry here. First off, super excited for today's episode. Good friend of mine, her name's Oriana. She's a workforce industry expert, human resource expert, labor relation, driver recruitment, basically anything under that big umbrella. She's my go-to for a lot of stuff. So super excited to have her on the episode today. We dived into quite a bit of different information that I feel is really relevant for small, mid-sized carriers right now as we navigate through the pandemic, but also as we just experience different changes with the adoption of technology. What can we automate, ELDs, all that good stuff. So stay tuned, and thanks so much for checking in. Hey everybody, thanks so much for hopping on the episode or on the show today. Super excited to have a personal good friend of mine here, Oriana, who's been my go-to for a lot of things industry related now for quite some time. Oriana, she's a product manager. She's a workforce Oriana's a product manager, a workforce strategist, a labor relation expert, and an industry advocate. She recently left a position with the Provincial Industry Association to pursue other industry initiatives as a product manager with Sunwapta Solutions and an owner of Industry Workforce Development of Canada. So Oriana promotes opportunities within the transportation industry, enhances workplace development and human resources while providing labor strategies and expertise. So welcome, Oriana.
Thanks, Josh. Looking forward to being here. I know, like you said, we've been talking about doing something like this for quite some time now. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I am too. And yeah, it's awesome. It's probably 9 months, I'd say, of wishful thinking has brought us to today. So super excited to have you. And yeah, first off, thanks. I like bragging about people that I trust, that I know when I ask questions or I want guidance on something, I can trust what's being said. And you've been that expert for myself for quite some time. So it's great to have you in this platform, but also just, it's been awesome to witness everything that you're doing since your transition. And yeah, you're really developing just your different leadership skills. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, and vice versa. I mean, I don't know where I'd be without you in the industry and all the initiatives that we've been working on and talking about. So you've been a go-to, and really proud to see what you're doing, and can't wait to see how we can collaborate together and even make things even better for the industry. So
awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I guess just for starters, for those that don't know you, do you want to just take a moment and kind of describe who you are and essentially what makes you you?
Sure. I mean, when you would kind of give me these pre-questions, the funny part is that I don't know why this question was the hardest. It's something you just don't think about all the time. I mean, I know what my skills are. I know who I am. I'm bold kind of lady. I am really passionate and someone that continues to thrive and look to do different things and change management. I'm really excited to bring new changes to industry and to work with different people. I see so many different areas within industries and opportunities, and so many great people. And that's what strives and makes me passionate and excited about what we're doing. I really just can't wait to see how far we can take it. And there's just so many different opportunities. And being in workforce, what really gets me excited about that and why I enjoy it is that you know better than anybody. I mean, industry in general, a lot of the small to medium-sized carriers or employers don't necessarily have the bandwidth. They don't have the staff, they don't have the time, or they don't have the energy, and they might not have the right supports in order to be successful. So that's where I come in, and I love that opportunity to be able to be helpful and find those solutions for people. My background is, like you said, workforce strategies, labor relations. I have a paralegal background in human resources. So there's that. Nice. I came from government of Alberta and had worked for the Provincial Association for a while, which really is something that got me excited about industry. And I could talk about how I'm counting down the days before I can go on the dock and fishing again. And I'm outdoorsy. I love animals and saving animals and people and all kinds of different things. So that's a little bit about who I am. And my passion really is a part of it's a curse, but also a strength, is my challenge to always try to be perfect or always try to do more. And I see there's so many opportunities and there's not enough time in the day to do that. So that's really a big part of who I am and where things are going for me and what we're talking about.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's multi-faced, so that's perfect. You mentioned a couple of things there that I'm excited to get into today. So removing perfectionism, exactly what is workforce. You mentioned carriers, small and mid-size. They just have different challenges, obviously, than major players. Some of it's probably a costing perspective, and an understanding. What do I need to know? How am I supposed to know that? And yeah, so that's awesome. So you mentioned industry workforce, and then you also mentioned the paralegal human resource side, which I actually wasn't familiar with. So was that your first entry point into the transportation industry, was when you're with the government of Alberta, or how did you get into transportation?
Well, I actually had a big life change. I thought I had my life figured out and where I want to be and who I wanted to be when I was grown up. But I was getting married and had to actually, in the middle of the night, leave a domestically abusive situation. And at that point in my life, I had to sit down and assess where I was going and who I wanted to be. And I'd realized that there were so many different components to my life that, I could do so much more, not only with myself, mentally, physically, but also in my career. And working for the government of Alberta was a great place to work. Many opportunities, but I never felt the opportunity to be able to be as innovative as I could be and be able to promote the change that I wanted to promote and do it on a different level. So it took me to kind of doing some self-reflection on myself, about a year or two. And I continued to work for the government and happened to apply for a job just willy-nilly and ended up getting into the association for trucking and logistics. And I can't tell you that this was a role that I felt like, oh my God, this is it. This is who I am. This is what I want to be. And it really excited me. And everything about that role took bits and pieces of who I was, from working in employment standards, OH&S, working immigration, but also my legislative and labor relations background. So it gave me that whole new meaning and purpose behind who I want to be and where I want to be with industry now today. And what we're trying to talk about today as well, in workforce development and working to make great change and work to change the imagery perceptions and issues within industry, help collaborate with employers, but also try and get youth and women into industry and underrepresented groups that, we need more of that. And it's not just about, it's also the problem of people just not realizing what transportation is. People think it's just, trucking. It's a yard full of trucks and it's just truck drivers, but there's so many opportunities. And really, without the industry, we have nothing. And without those employees or youth and women, people wanting to get into the industry, where are we going to be? So that's where I see it. And really, so to get to the point, I got into industry by chance, just kind of stumbled into it. And this is where I found my interest and passion and loving the people and the opportunities that have come with it. So I've continued to want to stay within industry in many different aspects, even though I'm working as a product manager. But even that is an initiative creating product for industry as well. So
that's incredible. I love it. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned how you kind of stumbled into the industry. And I think a lot of people stumble into transportation. And then half the time it's because they actually didn't know what transportation was. More often than not, people think, oh, a semi and a trailer, tractor trailer traveling down the road, that must be transportation. And that's only a small portion of it. It's an essential piece. Obviously, it's super, super important. But yeah, when you think of what is transportation, what defines a driver in a commercial vehicle, it's not just the tractor trailer operators and those style of carriers, because as we've talked about numerous times, it's based off of weight. So depending on the province that you're in, we'll just kind of stick within Canada because I'm not too good with the kg to pound conversion. But yeah, when you base it off of weight, if you're a quote unquote federal carrier, it's over 4,501 kilograms registered, or in the province of Alberta, it's over 793 kilograms. That's a massive classification of vehicles. So yeah, your influence doesn't just stop with, again, over the road delivering product from one location to another, one country to another, but it's all of the smaller people, the landscapers, the moving companies, the mobile communication companies that have cube vans that are registered over a certain amount. They all classify differently. And yeah, when you enter in those workplaces, maybe you start as a forklift operator, or maybe you start as a secretary for all, the kind of depends, I guess. And yeah, all of a sudden your boss is like, hey, can you move this F-350 with this on it to from here to here? And you're like, yeah, no problem. It's just a pickup truck and a trailer and maybe a Bobcat. But lo and behold, they have business in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Okay, well, now you're, yeah, by law, you have to do a bunch of other things that maybe they don't have in place. So an expert like yourself is essential, because you're able to say, well, what are you doing about this work safe hazard? Or how are you hiring people? Or what files do you have in place? Like, there's such a variety. And that's something that's overlooked. So the stumble upon into the industry happens a lot of times just kind of as a fluke. And then people are like, what? I'm in transportation? It's like, yep, it's a massive, massive sector in Canada. Like, it's an essential piece of the supply chain. So yeah, that's interesting. So you kind of mentioned a couple of things that, again, I'm super excited to dive into. Some of it's industry challenges, some of it's getting women and youth in the industry, or into the industry more, and different just diverse groups into the industry. What are some of the main challenges from your lens, from industry workforce, that you see?
Number one, I like to challenge the fact that, is there a driver shortage? I mean, there's a lot of statistics and things that are going around, but is there really a driver shortage? When I've been talking to people and employers, to me, the biggest challenge is finding the shortages and finding skilled workers. That is the challenge. We have an abundance of drivers applying, but they don't have the experience, they don't have the skills, and that's a challenge. And a part of that is the barrier to entry. Government of Alberta has done a great job with the recent grant funding, allowing to pay for up to 90% of the MELT programming for about, it was 300 at first, now to 500 extra seats to fill those class 1 positions. So that's amazing. But the costs, the barriers to insurance for employers is a big one, which also prevents young people from getting into industry or wanting to even be a driver. There's challenges around, to me, it's recruitment and retention, but that also hand in hand with when we're talking about the driver shortage and challenge. Those are issues, and I think those are key. Not having enough women or youth in industry. That's a big challenge, because, I mean, when we're thinking about the aging workforce that we do have, I mean, most of them are 55 years old or older, and that's even in office positions in a lot of the industry. You look around, a lot of our generation is aging, baby boomers are going to be leaving, and we don't have enough young people interested in getting into the industry. And a lot of that is the challenge is a lack of understanding of what the industry is and not getting the word out there enough. And a part of that comes from our education system. And I know that that's probably going to be a question, and I'm leading a little bit in ahead, so you can make fun of me after. But part of that is that, you know, there's only a list of maybe 50 occupations in our educational system for, you know, high school or junior high for students to look at. Teachers, lawyers, engineers. But there's a problem with that, because not everybody's going to want to fit within those niche positions. Not everybody's going to go be a lawyer. Not everybody has the ability, or not everybody wants to be. Yep. And there's not enough focus on the other positions or occupations that are around. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of different options out there. And it's even when I've gone to talk to schools, kids just don't really know, oh, I could be in HR within trucking logistics. Oh, I never thought about being a reefer technician. Oh, you know, even the fact that they're talking about kids and what do you know about trucks? Well, the accidents on the highway, they're what caused that. And it's a great opportunity to educate those young people and minds that, you know, there's so many different situations that can cause those accidents, and that most of the time it's actually the passenger vehicles that are on the road that cause those accidents, or weather. And that a lot of the times those big rigs have to watch, and their way of being in the ditch is preventing other accidents or deaths from happening, right?
Yep.
So yep. I see those as being quite a few of the challenges. There's so many, but in my kind of little world, that's what some of the biggest challenges are right now. And a part of that also is safety and compliance.
Correct.
Technology is a big one, because when we're trying to be compliant and we're trying to be an industry of safety and we're trying to redevelop the image, there's a lot of employers that are maybe have the money or that are larger that are able to incorporate great systems or technology. And it's not about hiring robots to take over people's positions. It's about getting the proper technology so that people can actually do the jobs that they want to do, remove any mundane tasks, remove paper files. You know, I mean, man, that's crazy. And even with COVID, now people are struggling. Well, our files are at the office, but we're working from home. We need to have better integration, and better technology and systems will help attract new people to the industry as well. Because nobody wants to be doing, maybe Brenda in accounting's happy doing, you know, working on her paper files in the system she created from 1998. But once she leaves, what systems are in place and who's going to have to take that over?
That's right.
Right? When you could actually give the employees the tools to do their jobs, eliminate some of those mundane tasks, it will give them more opportunity to be innovative and to feel happier in their role because they'll be doing things they actually want to do, which in turn will also reduce costs. You're saving costs by finding a proper, just a simple, small solution that's something that can reduce time for employees and give them the time to do things that you actually want them to do, right? And it's also safety. I mean, young people want a safe workforce. We need to walk the talk instead of just having these policies in place, right? So those are some of the biggest challenges I'd see.
Incredible. It's awesome. Yeah, again, bringing it back to the expert, I like when I can ask a question and how you respond describes your vision, which is really cool because there's a lot of, I wouldn't say there's a lot of problems, but there's a lot of solutions to offer and implement. And a couple of things that you said there. So one, BC, from my understanding, just enforced MELT, so mandatory entry-level training for Class 1, I believe Class 2 drivers in BC as well, which is awesome because Ontario started that process quite some time ago, which is something I'm an advocate for. And then when Alberta and Saskatchewan went down that route, and then National Safety Code 16 integrated that requirement as well, it's nice to see other provinces going on. So now it's just time for a couple others in Canada to really adapt that. And then, yeah, great job to the Alberta government because it's expensive. Like the average cost could be around 10 grand, and rightfully so, like 100 and some hours of training. You can't do that for free. So hats off to the training schools in Alberta that have really adapted to just these new requirements. Both of us collectively, we're fortunate to have relationships with different school owners and trainers. And yeah, from my experience, the comments have been positive. There's always things to improve, but it's a good step in the right direction. But yeah, when you're trying to get into those type of roles because you see like this, the pay structure as an example, from being a shipper or a receiver in the forklift to a Class 1 driver when you're talking on the dock. Yeah, there's quite a big difference in pay, and I know pay is important. There's a bunch to it. So to have funding and help to get those positions, same thing if people are laid off or if they were injured in the workplace and that's their new beginning, it's pretty neat. And then you mentioned something too that's a big passion of mine, and that's like automation and improvement of process. So I've been in the industry basically my entire career, so about 15 years. So I've definitely had my fair share of paper held and paper files to that. I remember I went through an audit a long time ago, and the auditor, like we had in BC, I used to own a small trucking outfit, and we the first audit, we went there basically with a notebook asking questions because we had no clue what was required. The second audit, we brought one filing cabinet box full of paperwork because we thought we were good. It was a disaster. But yeah, 15 years, well, less than 15 years ago now, going through that process, I wouldn't have thought of using like cam scanner on a phone and having things electronically. But in today's day and age, go digital. Like everything's there. You don't have to touch it. Like as long as you meet your time frames, it is super simple. And it's nice that you're creating a product to do. I know there's a lot to it. I don't want to dive too much into it just due to confidentiality. But yeah, if you're looking, speaking of the industry, if you are looking for a solution, Oriana, you need to talk to Oriana. Her and her team collectively are creating something that is going to be revolutionary. And again, speaking from experience, when you don't have to touch something every single day, that's massive time savings. It's stress relief during an audit, it's stress relief during an internal audit yourself. But you just, yeah, you can trust the process, you know it's done right. So I'm super excited just to learn more of that product as it becomes more tangible. So that's super cool. And then, yeah, I think something that you mentioned too is just kind of removing the barriers for what is driver retention. And yeah, I think as industry, a lot of times I always say industry can help industry, like we can help ourselves. And you see it, I see it, like we're both collectively monitoring social medias to see what challenges are out there. And that's something I see all the time is, well, why isn't the government doing this? Or why isn't there? It's like, okay, so industry help industry. We are all capable of solving problems. And yeah, I think a lot of it too is just, yeah, clearing false images off the wall, false information, and just saying, no, it's not that hard. Take a deep breath and we can get through it. And again, experts like yourself really help ease that process, which is super cool.
So. Experts go. Listen to you go. Remember you telling me about, I don't remember what it was exactly, but you were picking up a piece of paper and talking about something that you had done to change that process and the amount of times you touched that paper and reduced it, you know, and the cost that would come with reducing that, because it's the time that you're reducing. I mean, that's huge, right?
Yes.
Nobody wants to deal with boring paperwork, right? Filing cabinets. We need to free time up, right?
Well, and come June, not to over talk about the ELD mandate, because I know there's a lot of difference of opinions there. But once that process and once that fine line has crossed June 13th, a lot of people that are working in transportation will have a really good opportunity to see what else can be electronic, not just the ELD, so not just an electronic logging device, but what else can now be automated? What can you see? What data can you have that you never knew you could have before and you didn't know was important? So we'll probably save that for another conversation down the line once there's a little more information. But yeah, it's pretty neat when so-and-so does this and it trickles effects in 6 different ways. If they make a mistake accidentally, like my wife, she's in human resources as well. She's an IT expert. And she's like, if someone doesn't put the right date on something, 6 other people, their jobs like in that scope's messed up just because someone did like 0304 2011 instead of 0403 2011. And it's like, how simple is that? Or from a driving standpoint, you want to go through a level 1 inspection with law enforcement, you're a little nervous and you're like, but my logbook looks good. And then the officer goes through it and you're like, actually you have 9 violations because you didn't use a calculator, didn't use a ruler, and you abbreviated a city. It's like, oh, darn. So yeah, I think
it just makes it so much easier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially things. I remember working in a part in the government, and it was vital statistics. That's a huge place where all of the births are registered, deaths, name changes. And if you miss the wrong thing, or you're sending something to the coroner's office with the wrong thing, someone could be recognized as being, I remember one guy being recognized as being dead. And he called the government. He said, hey, nobody's told me about my taxes. I said, well, you're legally dead. He's like, my brother died, you know, so one, and yet there were so many different touch points and people that we had to go to, you know, for that same piece of paper. It had to go through 5 other people, but there's so many room. We're people, we make mistakes, but that technology can just make things easier on us. And at the end of the day, we can sleep better with knowing that somebody's not legally dead, even though they're not dead.
That's right.
And for him though, but he probably didn't have to pay taxes, hopefully, but
oh, that would be terrible. I do have a question. I think this is a topic that's not talked about as much, and I know we've talked about it because we've both faced it in our industry. Again, from an archaic perspective, you would feel obligated to always be in the office. So maybe if you're a human resource person, have to be in the office. Mm-hmm. If you're in operations, there's no way you can work from home. You have to work into the office or work in the office. Obviously, we're in a different time now. People are working from home. They're seeing pros and cons. So what's your perspective from industry, not just us as people, but collectively in our entire industry? Do you think that could be our future, where we're mobile truck, like I know the transportation is going to need like truck parking and distribution centers, but do you think our industry would really adapt to full-time at home unless you're these three positions kind of thing, or where do you see that going?
Absolutely. And I think that's the way the world's going. And COVID-19 has shown that. I mean, the thing with that too is that the people are capable. I mean, there's always going to be those crappy employees that will take advantage. I mean, that's to say with any position, any industry, anything, right? But on the whole, a lot of people, I believe, want to do good. They want to feel accomplished. And the statistics have proven that people are actually can be really accomplished while working from home. My challenge with that is that I'm an extrovert and I've worked from home for almost over a year now. And I like the people aspect of being out and about. So to me, I would like a little bit of variety. And I don't think that's the challenge behind that. I think as time and with COVID and things progress and the vaccinations are, more out there and we're in the clear, that will be different. But working from home is a great opportunity. And it's also an opportunity for that to allow for more autonomy, but to also allow for more people to want to be able to enter the industry, especially women or families, people with families and children. It's a great opportunity for them to be able to not feel the stress of having to worry about taking their kids to daycare, paying for daycare. I mean, I don't have kids, so I give a lot of praise to people that do and are working from home, but it's a great opportunity to allow for that. And that will help with retention in the future as well. And like you said, well specific. I mean, being a truck driver is going to be a little bit different, from working from home, but there's plenty of opportunities, even dispatch that could potentially work from home. You just have to have the right equipment, HR, why not? You just need to get away from some of those paper files, find a simple solution that can be, you have a VPN. You don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars on technology to make it more doable to be able to work from home. And it's also a way a lot of employers are saving money.
Yep.
I mean, I've heard so many employers are just shutting up shop. It's like, did they go to business? No, they just figured, hey, my employees are doing really good working from home and they're more productive. They're more innovative. And, I don't need the office full time. We can just, downsize, and it's saving them a lot of money.
Right.
So it's the wave of the future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been my experience too. And thanks. You touched on it again. I'll always just say it. You're my go-to with this type of stuff. It's so awesome. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of opportunity from a productivity standpoint, but I think there's a lot of pressure on the employer to do the right thing too. I was listening to a guy, Michael Hyatt. He was on a different podcast that I listened to, and he was talking about the pressure that he was under to trust like his employees because of the fact that, I can't see them. And it's gone from that mentality to trust to, even shortening hours in the day that work because it's he created the environment of this is what we need to get done. And if it takes you 6 hours or if it takes you 3 hours, like you can really work with that. So I think, from a carrier and an employer standpoint, that would be the biggest challenge. But I agree with the benefits of working from home. I think, I was fortunate that I got to do it for a little bit. And it's just nice. And we have kids, so it's nice from that perspective too. And as we'll talk about Avery, he's an industry advocate too, and he's 11. It's awesome. So we'll talk about him.
I love him.
He's awesome.
He's a better speaker than so many people. And I was like, oh my God. I was telling my mom yesterday. It's like, Avery is a better speaker than I am. How does he do it?
One deep breath at a time is what I tell him. So he's awesome. So we'll talk. He'll be really, I think, essential when we talk about youth in the industry. He'll be really vocal there. But I think from working from home, another thing that we have to overcome though, and we've talked about this before too, is our identity. Because as a workaholic younger generation, we really identify in our career. We identified in the commute to the office you knew on Tuesdays at 10, you're going to go get or you're going to get a coffee and you're going to talk to the same barista. You kind of build your life with those structures and those excitements. And when all of that was kind of swooped away, like we've talked about before, we kind of had to find a new identity that you have to identify that. Well, it's funny. You have to acknowledge the fact that our jobs aren't our identity. They just can empower who we are. And then, yeah, finding new routines, like you mentioned, where you're not just wake up on the computer, go to sleep, wake up on, like, it's creating some form of balance, some form of, okay, I have 6 hours. What can I get done? How can I be the most productive? And again, from different friends of mine that are working from home, that's actually how they've pieced out their day, is because if you think about like a normal 8-hour day plus your hour of breaks, you have, say, a 7-hour period now. What can I get done super efficiently and correctly and to the best of my ability in that time? And it's easy to keep the phone on silent, and it's easy, obviously, if you have family, just to close the door and, yeah, do what you got to do. So that's super interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like to call them perfectionist fantasies.
yeah,
And for myself, like I said, I'm extroverted and I enjoy working long hours. And when I'm in the zone, especially working from home, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, you get stuck in that zone and you're like, well, it's cold out, especially in Alberta. What else am I going to do? I mean, I don't want to take the dog for a walk. I'll just keep working. I'm in it. I'm ready. And then your life and work blends together, but then you don't ever feel like you're accomplishing enough. And that's the challenge that I think a lot of people are struggling with, is that identity of, trying to change who you are, make yourself be perfect, but really there's no such thing as being perfect. And we've talked about that. And you have to learn to identify outside of that role as well and find that perfect balance, right?
correct. Yeah, it's fun. Oh, I like the word fun. And it's fun when you enter your zone of excellence. So that's what it's called, when you just feel like you're in the zone and Monday turns into Thursday and you're like, whoa. But yeah, it's creating some, I don't even know if it's called work-life balance. It's just, yeah, what works for you as a person and works for, like, if it's collective as like a small group of friends or family or whatever, it's finding that balance. And then, yeah, removing the thought of perfect as well. Because I remember it's about 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I was trained to become a life coach, and his name's Sean, really good guy. And he would always talk about paralysis by analysis, and you're over analyzing to the point where you're frozen in fear. And then you talk about your terror barrier. And he's like, you just got to jump. You just got to wing it. Like, you got to, nothing's perfect. You'll never be perfect. So it's, again, removing that concern. And yeah, I just think in our industry, that happens a lot, where, oh, I really want to go for that role, but, oh, I don't know. And then they read 19,000 articles on the role. They don't even apply. And it's like, you could have applied, like, just, but yeah, that's the encouragement at the end of the day, is like, don't be paralyzed by analyzing data. Don't be paralyzed by other people's interpretation of if you're good enough or not. Just, yeah, being like, you know what, I want to go for this. Or from a carrier, some carriers don't want to change because they're afraid by changing, they'll be exposed for what they're not good at. It's like, no, everyone has to suck at some point. So just rip off the Band-Aid and, like, okay, I didn't do that very well. Change management's not my thing, but I learned from it. And yeah, I think carriers in our industry, they have to adapt to automation, to integration of technology, not just ELDs, but the systems like you're creating. Like, that is absolutely the future. And just removing the fear of perfectionism is super key from a carrier standpoint to an employee standpoint. And yeah, people that work for good organizations, because they're willing to say, hey, this might be uncomfortable, or we're going to suck at this for the next 6 weeks, but we will get better. People will stay. So that's going to help eliminate this driver retention concern that's happening in our industry, the driver shortage. And yeah, there's a lot of really positive things that can come of that, for sure.
Yeah, well, failure is what can make you stronger, but also, like you said, you just got to bulldoze through it, and usually good things will come out of that. And if you don't take the leap, or you have that fear or that, barrier in front of you thinking, oh, this costs too much, so I'm not going to even bother looking at it, or this is too time consuming. Those are the things that are going to hold you back, just like we hold ourselves back with those, perfectionism fantasies or ideas of who we should be or need to be. We just got to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So you've talked about a couple of times, which one of my favorite topics, because I get to talk about my son. Can you, in your experience, I'll word it that way, in your experience, what's it like talking in front of students and youth at their school, a place they're comfortable? You're not going to be as comfortable because it's their place, and you're talking about the industry. Can you kind of walk us through what is that like?
Talking, Well, first, it's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
You have all these eyes on you, and these kids are smart. I mean, I remember being in school, and I don't remember having, I don't know if it's technology or what it is, just the generational difference. And I'm a millennial, and I think you are as well. So,
Yep.
I mean, we're similar, but these kids are smart, and they're good at questioning you. So I'm always scared of the questions that they're going to ask me that I'm like, but no, it's actually really great. It's a great learning opportunity. And the favorite thing that I have from going to schools or talking to young people is that educational aspect of being able to change their perceptions or help guide them to see things that they may have not seen before. So, I mean, one example I like to talk about is the fact that these kids usually think because their parents or people on the road say, oh, those truck drivers, that's the reason there's accidents, don't drive too close to them. So you ask them, what's the first thing you think of trucks? Accidents. And I'm like, good. I like hearing that, because that's an opportunity to teach them, right, about the different issues with that. You tell them about the stopping distance. You educate them on, how far you should be away from that truck. The different signals that you can give to help guide the roads and help other people on those roads to not be in the way of those big rigs. Talking about how passenger vehicles can be 80% of the time usually be the issue. Weather challenges, and that a lot of these drivers are actually saviors, and that them being in the ditch is preventing them from being across the highway and causing a 70-car pileup like we just had not that long ago due to weather. And, there's always stupid people on the road, but at least if you're more aware of it, you're better off. And one kid I went back to his school, and he said, I told my mom and dad about, the challenges and that drivers have, and it really helped. And now my parents are waving at drivers. And so that's good. Even if they don't want to be a truck driver, or they don't really care at that point, I think it's a matter of just that education and letting them understand that there are other opportunities, as well as them just not knowing what is industry. Did you know you could be becoming a heavy duty mechanic, a technician? Did you know about dispatch? Did you know that there's so many different opportunities that you could get involved in, and that the opportunities for youth within industry and in industry in general, the opportunities are limitless.
Yeah.
You don't need a master's degree to start in the industry. There's so much room within different employers or areas where you can grow. And if you show that motivation and that interest, this is the industry you want to be in, because really your potential is huge. And I have to say that coming from government and coming from a lot of different areas that I've worked in the past, the opportunities for growth aren't as big as they are within the industry. And that's what makes this industry so powerful, so amazing. And that's why we need more young people involved, because when we're talking about young people and women, it's not about the gender equality gap. I don't think anybody's out there to say, no, you're a woman, we don't want you. No, that's not what it is. Or youth. It's the fact that we need more people to fill these spots that are going to be, these people are leaving in.
Yep.
How are we going to get those Amazon deliveries? How are we going to have those trucks moving and our economy going if we don't have the young people interested in getting into the industry? So in my opinion, we need to do more education around that. We need to, shake up the industry image, be on social media more, engage with young people, have the opportunity to get them to do, student summer internships, get involved in the RAP program. And a part of that is working with government as well to try and make this a skilled trade, be recognized. Because when we're talking to people are more interested in going to be a welder, maybe potentially because they've got a certificate at the end of the day. It's just the way people are, and that's the way they're rigged to work. If you have a diploma, you have a certificate, it makes you feel like you're more important. That's how it might not be the right way to say it, but it's also a great way to recognize that this is an important job, and this is an important industry. So
1,000%. Yeah. You said a lot of things that's exactly how I started off with Avery, who, for those that don't know Avery, you'll learn of Avery very soon. He's I'm very grateful as his dad, but yeah, he's my 11-year-old and he's a huge industry junkie. And it literally started with, I'd be on the road and I'd be checking people's cargo securement when they were beside us. And he'd be like, because I'd just be mumbling to myself, like, Dad, what are you talking about? And I'd be like, oh, that guy's straps loose. What guy? Or guy, girl, gal. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, that type of stuff bugs me, where it's not necessarily the big tractor trailers, but it's the F-350s with the Bobcat. And then they didn't want to chain down a couple things. They just kind of threw it in there. And I'm like, so then I started asking questions, like not in a devious way, just kind of like, so what do you think would happen if that jerry can fell off and hit the side of our car? Well, we get into an accident. I'm like, yeah, so that's why you tie it down. It's just like, oh, okay. So it just started from there. And then it came to a point where he's checking people's cargo securement and telling me, hey, Dad, I saw so-and-so today and their cargo securement was great. Like they tied everything down great. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, it just kind of dominoed from there. But yeah, I think like you said, it's super important. Professional drivers are that. They're professionals. And I strongly believe no one goes to the office. So their office is their truck or their tractor to get into an accident, to hurt anybody. It's never about that. It's always about moving product and being efficient. And I can't say everyone's perfect, but I strongly believe no one intentionally wakes up, hops into a commercial vehicle and says, I'm going to get into an accident today. That doesn't happen. So let's just erase that stigma. And then, yeah, a lot of the times when you do see tractor trailers in the ditch, it could be accident avoidance. It's not always the best answer because speed and space management, there's a lot to it. But yeah, I personally would rather see someone beside me in the ditch than hitting me if I had to slam on my brakes, whatever the situation is. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions just on the value of professional drivers. And Oriana and I are both big Thank a Trucker fans. So definitely professional drivers, thank you very much. And yeah, I asked those questions about the school because one, like Avery's 1 versus say it's 100. I think, yeah, the atmosphere would be very different. And yeah, some of the questions, or like I always call it their parents' thoughts because they're kids. And it's like, why would your parents say that? Like, that's not right. But how would you respond without upsetting the kid and trying to say that the kid's parents like a fibber or something like that? That'd be fun. But yeah, you're right though, because not everyone has to go to university. Totally fine. I'm almost 34 and I'm still going through university because the first 10 years of my adulthood just wasn't on the table for me. So I had different skills and I could do different things. And like I said, I just kind of stumbled upon like operating a truck too. So it's not about that, but there's so many entry points from a young age, fresh out of high school, and you want a year off before you actually think about your life. Perfect. You could be in the wash bay, you could be pulling wrenches, you could be operating different things. And yeah, so it's super cool. And same thing, like I love the women in industry. I love the thought and the thought process of it, because I agree, like I'm a big advocate for equality. And when you have skilled professionals, nowhere in skilled professionals, professional driver, professional dispatcher, is there a sex identifier. It is, you're a skilled professional. So we all have skills we have to learn. And there's a lot of skills out there that, yeah, it's not sex-based. It's just like, can you learn it? Awesome. Let's make you the best this that you could possibly be. So yeah, I think it's super exciting to seeing more, I'd say more attention on that. I work in an environment where there's a lot of females in there, and it's awesome because it's like, if someone ever asked, I would never notice the difference. That's just my expectation is like, of course, there's going to be a lot of culture, a lot of gender. It's no problem. But it's nice to see different organizations and government really pushing these type of programs, because it's been lacking in our industry for a long time. And sure, there's the older generation that maybe disagree with the millennials, but we're the future collectively, millennials and X-gens and whoever else these generations are. It's like, we're the future. So let's make sure our future is where we want it to be. And yeah, so, well, I appreciate the honesty, and I'm kind of rambling now, but
no, but it's just it. And it's even forgetting. The biggest thing I noticed when I went to talk to not only schools, but other organizations, is people just didn't know what the opportunities were in industry. The amount of questions you get, like a bus driver, I never thought about that rule, you know, or, oh, I could go work and I could do HR and trucking, you know, the pay is great in there. Safety professionals, that's a huge role that's up and coming, that's gonna keep going. I mean, there's so many opportunities that people just never thought of. and that they just really didn't know what industry was. So I think it's just that education aspect, and that's how we can get more people into it. And like you said, I don't think employers are sitting there saying, no, we're not going to hire any women because we're scared of this or that. There are ones like that, like, let's be honest, but on the whole, I believe most people are good. Most people mean well. It's just, how do we get the word out there, and how do we get more people interested in these industry careers? And it's not only about getting women as drivers or young people as drivers. We need that, but getting them in the door to know what the industry is and what kind of opportunities there are, and get them to even just work in the bay or to see different things on their summers, work with their fathers, go for a drive if possible. I know it's not always allowed insurance wise, but having those opportunities or special days to allow people to see what it's about is what's going to actually give us traction and allow more people to be interested and to move up into those roles.
Funny that you say that, because that aligns entirely, I'd say, and collectively our focus too. So using platforms like podcasts, YouTube, and just industry events once we're allowed to be in person to say, hey, I'm not shy, I'll go ask that person, because there is that fear there, which, okay, let's break down those barriers. And yeah, that's one of my heart's cry, is to eliminate like the fear of the unknown by just making people confident in themselves and being like, yes, that is an option for you. Yes, it is. And I know what it's like having conversations with fully grown adults, and I'm the first one, and this is what they'll disclose to myself, is I'm the first one that's ever spoken into their life of what's possible, because they always feel like they just kind of roll with the punches instead of making decisions. And yeah, it's like, no, you can make a decision. Like, you're an intelligent human being, you got this. And then we're the support, I'd say, collectively. And I know there's others like this out there, where it's like, you have a concern, ask the question. Maybe that's our next episode on our podcast episode, is industry concerns. I'm afraid of this. Okay, let's dissect it. Or
right.
It's and I know
myths almost, right?
Well, yeah. And that's the power though of, I'd say, like, I always make the joke because I'm bald or balding. I'm like, not all heroes wear capes. I can grow a mullet, and because a mullet could be a cape, ha ha ha. But it's just, I think we all have that ability. It just takes some other people to step up and lead. And I like what I said about like seeing different initiatives to drive more industry or women and youth in the industry. It's nice because someone's leading that change, and there was a barrier they had to break through, because maybe 20 years ago it was a different conversation than today. But yeah, it's super cool to see people like yourself stepping up and leading change in industry workforce, offering solutions without, where's your checkbook? It's like, hey, I have a question. Shout out. Like, what's the question? Like, let's dissect it. And obviously there's businesses in place and there's things to make money, but a lot of this stuff, it's not a secret anymore. And there's a lot of cool stuff in our industry for that. I did have a question. So you talk to a lot of people in a day. I know I talk to a lot of people in a day. How would our listeners, collectively, our industry, know, hey, I need to reach out to Oriana and ask her this question? Do you have any insight on kind of how people would know, hey, this is a question for Oriana?
Yeah, so industry workforce or Workforce Development of Canada is something that is new on the radar, and it's currently being worked on in the works. But with my background, really what it is offering solutions for employers and solutions for people entering industry. So what it is it's a little bit HR, it's a little bit of advocation, and a little bit of labor relations. So any questions you have on, labor laws, legislation, regulations, that could go into employment standards, occupational health and safety, how to properly terminate an employee, to how to properly onboard drivers, to, best marketing and advertising, wording and things like that for your advertisements for jobs, job advertisement structures, things like that. And another part of that would be people looking at getting into industry, being able to bridge that gap. That's what I do, is bridge the gap for people to enter those careers and to be successful and to find employers the right or suitable candidates. So with employers, it's also working with them and doing consultations. And my services are free right now. It's a matter of, what are your challenges? What are things that you need help with? And that will be anything to do with workforce or labor strategies, consulting services, going to the workforce, seeing what the challenges are. If it's retention and recruitment, what is it that we can do? And I can overview and take a look at your whole business and the organization and see where we can make some different changes. And that's the thing, I'm here because there's so many challenges within industry, but there's so many opportunities. And like I said, in industry, a lot of people don't necessarily have the manpower, the time. They don't have a dedicated personnel for HR. So my job is to help employers to be successful, to help give them the tools they need in order to, find better drivers, to find and retain people, and to make the decisions they need, and just give them the tools to educate them to do the job that they need to do better. And it's not about being better. It's just about maybe they don't have the time. So how can I help? That's what I'm here for.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And you can find me on Instagram. I've got that area, and LinkedIn. I'm really pretty predominant on there.
Yeah.
Facebook as well. So those are some areas, and I'll have a website up and coming. But for now, those are some great areas. And Josh can also, if anybody has questions, someone can always look out or reach out to him or to me, and I can give them my email address as well.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. So yeah, kind of as we tail to the end, I was just going to in closing, ask if there was any final thoughts that you'd like to say. And then, yeah, exactly. We'll kind of do a shout out to where we can find Oriana. Obviously, I'm always here. I can redirect questions, introduce. But yeah, so were there any final thoughts that you would like to say?
That I think we got a lot of great people. We've got a great industry, and I'm looking forward to where things will be, and working collaboratively and working together is where we're going to make the most change. Government, we can rely on them only so much. And I mean, working for government, there's always a process and it takes time, and they're great at what they do. But if we can work together to make that difference, I think that's where we're going to be able to really see some traction going in regards to recruitment, retention, skills shortages or gaps with that. We can all do things together and play our part. And my biggest thing is just reach out. What can we do? What are your challenges? What are things that, what do you want to work on? What makes you passionate? Because we want to bring you on board. And this is however much time you want. It's, if it's a part of your business, we want to be able to promote that. That's what we're here for. We're here to help provide solutions and to create traction within industry and be able to lead and advocate for the things that we all believe in, whether that's women, whether that's finding more drivers, whether that's youth and getting people into industry, or that's the ELD challenges. We're here for it all.
Awesome.
And Josh is a great, anything you need. Josh has the answers to everything. So I'm pretty sure he's a walking encyclopedia. So.
That's funny. That's awesome. Okay, well, thanks, Oriana. Yeah, first off, thanks. Like, I can say thanks 1,000 times. I won't, but I could. So thanks times 1,000.
Okay.
But yeah, this was a massive goal accomplished for both of us, because we've talked about this since Truck Focus Podcast was just a micro thought. And then, yeah, just the knowledge that you shared today was incredible. I think there's enough leading indicators too to say, yes, let's reach out to Oriana. And I do all the time. So you have my full confidence that you can trust Oriana, which is super cool. And yeah, just want to say thank you so much for being here today. I know it's a Saturday, so just spending a little time with me was super nice. Spending time with our audience is sweet. And then, yeah, as Oriana mentioned, so she's on Instagram, she's on LinkedIn, Facebook. So yeah, Oriana, if you just want to do one last shout out where people can find you, and then yeah, we'll have this live, and then I'd say the next 3 weeks. But yeah, if you want to just share where people can find you, then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you can find me at Oriana Kolonsky, and that would be at LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And my Instagram is Industry Workforce Development of Canada. So you can find that. You can probably look at Josh's friends list too and creep, and you'll find me there. I'm out and about, or I'm always sharing articles as well. I create articles through the Medium area. Is that what you call? How do you say that? I feel like an old person. Publication.
Well, you started writing on the blog too.
Yeah. So you'll see my name in a few different areas and publications. So looking forward to doing more and seeing how we can get out there. And I'll have a little bit more details for you in upcoming things on what we're all working on, Josh and myself, and how I can best help you and the industry. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So those that are listening, Oriana and I were planning on doing more collectively together, from a podcast standpoint, from the Truck Focus blog standpoint, and then obviously once it's a little more appropriate to do so in person, just really, yeah, focusing energy in the right spots to create solutions and actual action. Like Oriana mentioned earlier, walk the talk, not just sit here and talk about really cool things, but actually show them implemented, working, solving problems. And I love always say saving lives, keeping it simple. So, but yeah, Oriana, thank you so much again for being here today. This was awesome. And yeah, again, reach out to Oriana with any type of question, workforce, industry related, human resource, you got it. So thanks so much.
thanks, Josh. And thanks everybody for watching.
Well, that's all for today's episode. So thank you so much for checking in. I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to listen to Oriana and I talk about a number of important topics that's impacting our industry right now, as well as highlighting just the expertise Oriana brings to the industry. Highly recommend if you have any questions, workforce related, labor relations related, driver recruitment, driver hiring, anything in those fields, reach out to Oriana. I've included all of her contact details in the show notes. And yeah, she's just a wonderful person, a wonderful industry expert that definitely is fighting the good fight, in my opinion, and we're very much aligned just in the focus and in the impact that we're trying to have. So yeah, again, thank you so much for checking in. I also ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just press that little red button, because the more subscribers we get, just the greater the impact that we have, which is super exciting. And anyone that's listening on a podcast platform, same thing. Please subscribe, like, share. Anyone that you feel needs to know this information, or if you have different questions that you would like Oriana and I to discuss at a future episode, feel free to send me a message, shoot me off an email, whatever you got to do. But we're here for you. And yeah, thanks so much for just checking into the Truck Focus podcast. Have a wonderful day. Bye.